Hey guys, welcome to RelatableLOA. Today we're going to talk about something that I feel like may seem a little bit controversial in this community, but we're just going to talk about it anyways because I feel like it needs to be said. I feel like a lot of people are being misled, and I don't think it's an intentional mislead. I just think that a lot of people have this wrong idea about how things are working, and it's not really how things work, and I'm just going to get right into it. So what I mean is, affirmations are very powerful, but it is not called the law of affirmations. It is called the law of assumption. Now, for some people, they can affirm and naturally they just are going with this new story that they're telling, and they automatically just embody that new story and they're fine, they get what they want. Other people are manifesting something that is so unbelievable for them, or they just do not think is going to happen, and they affirm all day and they just don't really see anything, or they don't get much results at all. And there's a reason why that doesn't work when you have a lot of resistance to something. So why do we affirm? We're affirm because we have a story that we don't like that's playing out in our reality, and we want to tell a new story. Well, if all you're doing is saying some words, and you can say them all day long, and I'll tell you like a personal story with myself about what I mean, really. You can affirm all day long about something, but when you kind of stop and like set that work aside, because I know for a lot of people, they do it and then they just kind of, that they think they can affirm and that's it. And that's not really the case when you have a lot of resistance to something. There are going to be other thoughts that are popping up when you stop affirming intentionally. So let's say like you just affirm intentionally whenever you think about it. Well, there are probably times throughout the day when you like are thinking about it and you're not even really realizing it, and you're putting thoughts against it without even really realizing it. And this is exactly why you have to really embody the idea of the new story and just really believe, not really believe, because you don't have to believe to manifest. It's just that you have to see the situation that way now. So let's just say manifesting an SP, you have to put aside the old version of them and now see the version that you want as the real version. I'm not saying you have to believe it, but in your mind, when you're focusing on them, that is the version. You are not focusing on the version that you don't want anymore. It is gone. It ceases to exist. You only see the version that you want. Now, you can't, so back to the affirmation thing, you can't affirm all day long and then still see them as the old version. I made a post in my Facebook group about this because I feel like it needed to be said, but I also wanted to make a video about it to go a little bit deeper into what I really mean by that. And what I really mean is that you can affirm all day, but if you're not seeing this person differently, when you stop affirming and you're actually going and living your life and you interact with this person or whatever, you're not really changing, because the whole point of manifesting is like, people think it's about all the things that they're trying to manifest and like that's what needs to change, but no, you are changing. It's you and your perception of the world around you that's changing. And if you're not really changing your perception, you can affirm all day, but if your perception isn't really changing, then you're not going to see results, because you're really not changing what you see in the world and how you see the world. It's how you see the world and how you assume the world to be. So if you're not really changing that assumption, it's not changing. And someone in my Facebook group brought up, like, well, that's mental diet. You have to be on your mental. Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. And people think that you can just affirm and not have a mental diet. Okay, so what I mean by affirm is like you have purposeful intentions that you are like, SP is in love with me, SP wants to be with me, SP is always contacting me. You can say all those things and affirm them many times throughout your day, but when you think of them outside of that affirmation, like purposeful affirmation, that intentional time you set aside to affirm, when you're thinking about them outside of that, if you don't think of them in that same way that you are affirming them to be, if you just think of them in the old way that you don't want them to be, you're not changing things, or you're gonna get hot and cold. That's where the hot and cold stuff comes in, is that you're affirming and doing your work, but you're not fully committed because you're not seeing them as that version, unless you're intentionally manifesting, which we're always manifesting. But when some people, they put aside certain time in their day to intentionally manifest, and then they go and the rest of their day they're really not thinking of that person any differently, or they're not thinking of the situation any differently. Like if you're trying to manifest money, you can't affirm all day that you're all those great things about money and then go out and not see money differently. Like you have to see money differently, or think, not necessarily have to believe that, but you have to think like you do. When you see money or put into situations where you have to spend money, you think of money differently. You don't just affirm and then think of money the same when you go spend money. You affirm and you go and you spend money and you're like, wow, money is so easy to get. I don't even feel bad spending money now. That doesn't mean you have to spend money on things you can't afford. It just means that you think differently about money. You think differently about the thing you want to change. You think about it like it is changed. And you can't go back to that old story. Doesn't matter how long you affirm all day long, you can't go back to that old story in the time when you're just not intentionally focusing. You have to really commit to the new story. I cannot tell you how much time I wasted in the past thinking that I was doing it right and getting so upset why I wasn't getting results. I would just affirm. I don't know if anybody else has done this, but you're like, I really want this thing, so I'm just literally gonna set aside my entire day for like as long as like however many days, and I'm just gonna affirm all day long, and I expect to see this result because I'm doing it all day long. And just you're miserable and you're just sitting there affirming endlessly on a loop, but you don't really see the situation any differently when you stop doing that. Like you could affirm for 3 hours straight, I kid you not. But when you get out of it, if you don't actually see the thing differently, it's not going to change, because it's not just about saying some words, it's about actually seeing the thing differently. So if you are manifesting your SP and you were like, they're in love with me, they want to get back together with me, whatever, and then you go out into the world and you expect this person to treat you exactly the same, they're going to treat you exactly the same, because that is a more dominant assumption, because that is what you've been thinking. Just because for one day you're thinking differently, that's not going to change if you're not actually expecting and seeing them as this new version. You have to really see the thing that you want as changed in your reality. And I don't mean physically like with your eyes see it, I mean like you have to like, that's the version that's real to you in your mind, is the version that you want. And you do that by, when you experience the thing that you want in your world, you have to see it the way that you want it to be. So let's say you're with that SP, they text you and say something that like doesn't really fit your story. Well, you make it fit your story. That sounded aggressive, but you have to be kind of aggressive in this kind of thing. They say, I don't want to be in a relationship with you. You say, you could either revise if they did want to be, they said that they adore you and they want to be with you and they can't stop thinking about you. Whatever fits your story, you revise it, or you say, make up an excuse. They didn't mean what they were saying. They're just tired. This person's in love with me. They're always treating me the way I want to be treated. So like, I'm not just gonna let this one thing they said to me bother me. You know, like make it fit your story, because you have to be committed to your story. It doesn't matter what this person says to you. You see them as the person that you want them to be. So you're like, okay, well, what would I do if this person is the way that I want them to be and they said something that doesn't seem to match? Oh, okay, well then you're like, well, they're always nice to me. I'm not gonna, this one thing doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? Fit the story. I have to commit to your story, and if something comes up that doesn't fit the story, you make it fit the story, or you revise it so that it was the way you wanted it to be. I have a lot of people ask me like, what do you mean by revision? I've had a lot of videos about it, but just give an example. Like I said, the person texts you, say they don't want to be with you. You say, no, they said that they're in love with me and that they really care about me and that they think about me all day long. Revise that they said something you did want to hear, and repeat that and repeat that and repeat that until that is real to you, and that what they said is like a fluke, whatever. You have to commit to your story, even if it means revising everything that doesn't fit it, that you see in your reality. You're like, no, this is the version that I want. This is the version of my reality that I want. Doesn't matter if it's a person, a situation, a thing. You stick to your story about how things are. You are in your reality. No matter what you see, You make it fit your reality and make it mean that your reality is true. Revision is really helpful. I would go back and watch my videos on revision if you have really hard time with 3D. This is where it really comes in. You revise or you make it mean that your story is true. You do not for 2 seconds say, oh, that means I can't get what I want, because you're making that true. Now, if you happen to do that, catch yourself. That's the best thing you can do is in that situation. You catch yourself and you switch immediately back to your story. There is nothing else that you need to do but stick to your story when you're manifesting. You do not have to affirm all day long. You don't have to do that. Just think, embody the new story. Just embody the new story. They are this person now. You can act like you're playing a game and just pretend like if you really don't believe in this stuff, but you want to try it out, just decide for a day you're going to play this game where this is your reality and you're just going to do that in your mind. You don't have to do it outwardly. You don't have to say anything to anybody, nothing. Or do anything physically. You just have to think in your mind like your story is true until it actually happens, and it will happen. It will happen. That is the trick. I really felt like I needed to say this because I almost got put in that trap again recently where I was like, okay, I'm affirming all day. That means I need to get results immediately. Think of your thing differently and it will be different. You can't just affirm and think of it the same way. Message that I'm trying to get across. All right. Thank you guys for watching. I really hope that this message resonated with people and that it is a breakthrough moment for people, because you can't affirm and not actually think differently about it, because there is a difference between affirming and how you're actually seeing the thing. You know how like everything kind of has an essence, or like you have an idea about everything in your world? Well, if you're affirming and that idea isn't changing, it's not changing. You have to see it differently. The affirmations are just kind of like there to help and guide your thoughts, but you actually have to decide that you're going to see this thing differently, and that's deeper than just affirming. So I hope you guys understand what I mean. I know that some people say that if you affirm long enough, you will see it that way, but it just isn't healthy to be affirming for like a day straight if you're not committing to the story that you're telling. If you're affirming for like a day straight and you're just doing it because you think that's the only way you can get your results fast, guess what? Newsflash, you're not going to get your results, because that means you don't really believe in your reality. Like, you don't believe that you have the power over your reality. Because if you think that you have to affirm, you're not really trusting in the idea that you just have to embody the new story. That's all you have to do. You can see results quicker than what you think you can do by just affirming all day. It's so much simpler than that. You don't have to stress yourself out. You don't have to put that on yourself. You really don't have to do that. That's too much work. You don't have to put that much effort into it. It's really not an effort process. It's not a trying process. It's not a hard thing to do. Manifesting doesn't have to be hard. And when people make it all about affirming, it's way harder than it needs to be. All right, ran over. Hope everybody has a great rest of your week. More videos coming. Yep, thanks for watching.